Screen. Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Perfect. Okay. Thanks everyone for joining. This is an onboarding session so you can get the most out of Fuelin. So we'll go through this. We'll go through a couple of things about Fuelin, and then the most important thing is getting the practical elements. So making sure you understand how it's all set up, the weekly and daily views, and then how to use it. So in terms of session updates, meal tracking, and fueling, and we'll definitely have some time for Q&A at the end. So the team, Elizabeth Impen, performance nutrition coach. She's based in San Diego. Myself, one of the co-founders and nutrition coaches based in Sydney, Australia, and Dr. Alan McCubbin, who's a fellow of Sports Dietitians Australia, a registered dietitian, and based in Melbourne in Australia as well. We're all available as coaches, even if you're not using us as one-on-one or in the co-pilot tier. If you are on pilot or autopilot, you can book consultations as well through the chat feature in the app. You just press the book a consultation button. I do recommend it usually for every athlete, especially if you've had issues in the past. I think when you first start, having a consultation generally kickstarts an athlete very much in the right direction and just helps you along. And I think if you think about, a standard sort of nutrition process or dietitian process, you would, speak to a dietitian before starting a program. So, in that case, I would recommend it. It's not necessary, but it's certainly, we've seen outcomes with athletes who do consultations generally are better. So look, our whole philosophy is being better and being fueled. And, that is specific to what you're trying to achieve. Obviously, you've got your athlete purpose and their focus, but it is really important that fuel or nutrition underpins that health and performance aspect. I think there's three big things with the Fuelin program that you should all sort of be aware of. And I think number one is consistency. So consistency, much like in training, is super important. Eating well for a day, even for a week, is probably not going to bring about any meaningful change. It's about the daily, the weekly, the monthly sort of application of yourself to improving, not just performance, but also your health. And I think nutrition underpins all of that. So it's not a quick fix diet. And if you are after a quick fix diet, then it's probably not the right program for you. And this plays into number two. I think it's all about the process rather than perfection. I think so many athletes get hung up on, if you are tracking, not being, you're missing by 5 grams, or you're worrying about certain little aspects that in the end are not going to shift the needle in a big way. It's that consistency and that adherence to the principles. Something as simple as eating somewhere between 5 and 7 serves of fruit and vegetables a day. It's that journey, it's that process, and doing that as best you can rather than necessarily being perfect is going to bring the results. And then finally, that mindset aspect. If you've ever heard or you know about this process of like, what is your why? And it's like a click through process. Ask, why are you doing this? And then ask to that answer, why, and then why, and why, and why. And eventually you'll get to the real reason as to why you've decided to focus on nutrition. And it's generally not about having a six pack or just losing some body fat. It's often a much deeper sort of purpose around health, about being with your loved ones, if you've got children, if you've got a partner, things like that. And it is one of those important processes, again, that a lot of athletes, I think, and people overlook, but it's a super important part of as to why you decide to be healthy, why you might train, why you might focus on nutrition. So in terms of Fuelin, way back when I first created it with Google Sheets, it was to really remove decision paralysis from athletes and try and simplify the process of nutrition, which is confusing. It's often confusing for us because there's always new research coming out. We do our best to stay up to date, but there's always conflicting evidence, and usually the most frustrating thing for athletes is that sort of common saying of more research required. But all of this information is what you as an athlete have to consider when trying to do your nutrition program, and this is what we're trying to provide with Fuelin. So aspects like the session intensity, the duration, the type of session, the time of day, all these factors are important when creating your plan. Same, what should you be eating? And those first factors in number one are going to dictate number two. What should you eat beforehand? Should you eat beforehand? What should you eat during? Should you eat during? And then certainly, what is your post-session recovery meals and nutrition look like in terms of recovery? And at what time should you be testing? When should you do a sweat rate test, a carbohydrate capacity test? How does body weight play into this? How does that impact how many calories you need, what that macronutrient split is? If you are in the co-pilot or the one-to-one category, then yes, sending in your bloods, your DEXA scans, RMR, metabolic testing, things like that to review is all possible, and that all plays a role. Again, if you want that reviewed from a consultation perspective, that's certainly possible as well. But these are all the things that, you know, for an athlete to consider, I think it's a hell of a lot. And hopefully what we delivered to you with Fuelin is a program where you become conditioned by seeing certain colors, you know, the traffic light system with the red, yellow, and green, and you start to recognize what type of fuel you require. So if you've got the app in front of you, have it open, and then down the bottom is what we call the nav bar. So hit the athlete section down the bottom. Now, all this information will be preset from onboarding. Up near your name, you've got that little arrow. If you touch that little drop down arrow, it will provide you with what you onboarded with your purpose and focus. It is important to look at this from time to time, because when you join might be either the in season and you may be shifting into post season, or you may have joined in post season and then have to shift into in season. This will impact the macronutrient and the total calories that you're provided with. Same with your focus. Are you in a body composition focus or are you in a performance focus? And that will manipulate some of the macronutrients being delivered to you in terms of the amounts. So it is important to have a look at that and understand to change that when your purpose and your focus changes. In terms of your goal weight, what I would recommend is athletes don't get too overzealous with like trying to lose 20 kilos or 30 pounds. Set them at a meaningful sort of target. So maybe somewhere like 5 pounds or 3 kilos is a really good goal to have, because then what that does is, yes, you will be put into a caloric deficit, and that caloric deficit will be aimed to get you to that goal weight. But it means that caloric deficit won't be sort of an infinite amount of time. You may get there in 3 weeks, you may get there in 4 weeks. And then once you hit that target, we will then apply what we call a maintenance caloric amount, and you'll see a significant boost in calories for that week. After that, you could then say, okay, I want to lose X amount of kilos, again, maybe 3 or 4 kilos, or, 4 or 5 pounds, and then you reset again. It is something that I think is really important for athletes to understand and use that type of system, so that you're not constantly in this caloric deficit and chasing an unachievable goal. In this section, you can track your weight. We do recommend Monday and Friday morning after going to the toilet, just naked or in a pair of underwear, do that. That will create consistency, and it's all about adherence. If you are triggered by weighing, then certainly you don't have to do it twice a week. If you have had issues with, say, disordered eating or eating disorders, I would strongly recommend you do have a consultation to sort of work around ways in which we can manage that. You can also do your sweat rate testing and your carbohydrate capacity tests. I will talk about that later on, about what that entails, but this is where you can do these tests. If you scroll down further, you can also add in any races you're doing. Now, this will just input a countdown into Fuelin, so you'll have a countdown to the race. You still need to create an event in your training platform if you're using Training Peaks, Today's Plan, or Final Search. The screen on the right is brought up when you tap that button on the left-hand screen, the button in the top right-hand corner. That's your settings. If you're having difficulties with your training program integration, then definitely hit that little spoke, and then the box that I've got, update training program integration, click on that, log in, make sure that everything's connected, and then you'll have no problems, and just rerun your plan. Does anyone have any questions on that?
No,
If I don't hear anything, I'll
don't.
keep moving on. Okay. So again, go down to the nav bar down the bottom and hit plan. So this will bring up the screen on the left. Once you've been on the plan for a couple of weeks, it will bring up this comparison, comparing your weekly calories to your average daily calories to your training volume. You can see that it's not necessarily a linear approach. So you can see here, I had a 53% increase in training volume. This is my plan, but I didn't get a 53% increase in calories. There was a 6.5% increase in calories. So that's part of the reason why we created this, is because it's not always a linear approach to creating your nutrition program. There's a lot of calculations that go in. I think at the moment there's about 75 calculations that go on each day with your sessions. And so that brings me to the point of like total weekly training hours. Your total duration of training is really important to have accurate within your plan. So as on this screen, you can see these buttons now and update my plan. If you hit update my plan, it will bring up the screen on the right. You can either update the current week or you can create next week. Before doing that, what we recommend is using is everyone on Training Peaks? What's everyone on?
Training Peaks. Training Peaks.
Training Peaks. Most of you will
Yeah,
be
me
on
too.
Training Peaks. Yeah. Okay. So when you're on Training Peaks, what I recommend is using your desktop version of it. So use the desktop version so it's all laid out. You've got Monday to Sunday. Click on all your sessions and just go through. Okay, does it have a session time of day? There's a little drop-down menu. Click on when you're going to be doing that. Does it have a session intensity in the title, i.e., and I'll show you what that looks like. It's either a Z and the number, or it's a closed bracket and the number, which is the intensity. In email 1, you will have received information about that. And does the session have a duration? Make sure that it's not 0. Make sure that it's actually got a duration. Once you go through the week, and you generally will do this on Saturday or Sunday, once your coach has given you your plan, update that, make sure it's all correct, go into Fuelin, hit update my plan and create next week. It's all done for you. Going through it in that way on your desktop version of Training Peaks, it takes about 3 or 4 minutes to make sure those 3 elements are done. A lot of coaches are now, they'll put in the session duration. Some coaching teams will put in the intensity as well. Teams like Toro, Valiant, My Pro Coach, 80/20, and Purple Patch will all have the session intensity in there. So the only thing you probably have to do is update the session time of day. We do default to 7 o'clock, I think 6:30 in the morning. So if you're doing only single sessions per day and they're all in the morning, you actually don't need to even do the session time. Okay. Okay, so if you scroll down further, you're still in the plan view, you'll get this. So you'll get all your days. It will have your protein, your fat, and your carbohydrates, and your calories for the day set out. It'll also be carb colored or color coded for the day. The carb color for the day relates to the grams per kilo body weight of carbohydrates. So as you can see in the middle here, a red day is less than or equal to 1.8 grams per kilo body weight. A yellow day is 1.8 to 4 grams per kilo body weight, and a green day is more than 4 grams per kilo body weight. Protein and fat will generally stay very stable because there's no real reason why you should fluctuate protein and fat. Okay, it's just one of those things that doesn't need to be done, and creates, again, a level of consistency and allows you to adhere to certain targets throughout the week. What a lot of athletes do get confused with at the start is they see the carb color for the day, and then when you click on the day, when you bring up your screen on the right, you can see that most of my meals are actually red. And they're like, if I'm eating red meals, why is my day yellow? Because the day's color is equated to grams per kilo of body weight. The colors of individual meals relates to the specific amount in that meal. So a red meal is 30 grams or less of carbohydrates. A yellow is around 50 grams of carbs or less, and a green meal is around 100 grams of carbs. So the color of the meal is set around 30, 50, or 100. The color of the day is related to grams of carbohydrates relative to your body weight. Does that make sense to everyone? Because I know it's something that a lot of athletes are like, okay, I don't quite understand that. Does everyone understand that? There is an article on Fuelin. If you just go into the articles and just search for the psychology of carb colors, I did write an article about it and how we updated that and did a survey on athletes just to ensure that they were very comfortable with that. Okay. So then your daily view. So if you tap on a day, let's tap on Wednesday or Thursday if you're in Australia, and it will bring up this screen on the left. If you tap the little arrows in the bottom left-hand corner, it will bring up the screen on the right. So you can either have an expanded view or a condensed view. I tend to use the condensed view a lot because I've obviously used the app for a long time, and I understand what a red run fueling would be. When you're new to the app, the expanded version is much better to use because the expanded version will tell you specifically what you should be consuming in that red run. So as you can see on the left, after 60 minutes, you're targeting, and we do that in either grams, we do it in calories, or we do it in whole food or in the actual types of products that we recommend. So initially focus on that. In terms of the hydration, in terms of related to the temperature, the more sweat tests, once you've put in 3 sweat tests, that description there of what you should be drinking based on the temperature will be specific to what you've input into Fuelin. So the more sweat tests and carbohydrate tests that you put into Fuelin, the more specific the recommendations will be for those sessions that require fuel. When you look at that session on the left, you can see that there's that closed bracket 2. That's in the session title. Okay, so the type of session is a run, and then in the session title, all I do is put the intensity. So a closed bracket 2 would mean zone 2. If it's a closed bracket 3, that would mean zone 3. For absolute ease of use of putting in your session intensities, the only distinction we need is between a zone 2 and a zone 3, because everything below zone 2 will be considered lower intensity. Everything above zone 3 will be considered higher intensity from a fueling perspective. So don't get wound up about, is it a zone 3, a 4, or a 5? You just need to say, is it zone 3 or above, or is it zone 2 or below? And simply either put a closed bracket 2 or a closed bracket 3 in the title, or a Z2 or a Z3, and then we will know what the intensity is. Okay. Down the bottom of that run cell on the left, you can see that it has a few metrics. It has the time of day, it has the session duration, and it has the intensity. We will sometimes guess those if you haven't put them in. If they're incorrect, all you need to do is tap on that session cell and it will bring up an option to edit. I will go through that in a minute, but I just want to point that out to you. From this screen as well, there's a few things you can do. As I said, you can edit the session. You can tap on the snacks or the meals, and then you can track there. You can also hit the plus button, and that will bring up a number of options. A big message for you all is that your in-session fueling or your daily macros summary, the target does not include in-session fueling. Okay, so your in-session fueling should not be tracked in something like MyFitnessPal or Lose It or within Fuelin. So if it's a red fueled session, just follow the prompts, eat what we tell you, and enjoy it. When it's a green or a yellow fueled session, we will prompt you to log that as a carb capacity test in Fuelin, but you do not need to log it in a food tracker. Does everyone understand that? Cool. Because a lot of people sometimes go, oh, that's not very many calories for my day. And it's like, well, you're probably taking in another 3,000 in the actual sessions. So it actually works out pretty well. Okay, so I talked about the sweat rate and carb capacity testing. You can see here on the screen on the left again. So you see that closed bracket 3. So this signifies that it's a zone 3 session or above. In this case, you see that I've put a box around it. It's telling you to log a sweat rate test and a carb capacity test. So what you would do is obviously review your session details. You see that you've got to log a sweat test and carb test. So in this case, you need to weigh yourself before the session. If you're doing a sweat test, you weigh yourself after the session, document that, hit the plus button, screen on the right will pop up, click on sweat and carb test, click that, and then follow the prompts. Oop. It's very, very easy. All you need to do is weigh yourself and then put the details in. Okay, in terms of tracking meals, in the first email we sent you, you were sent a guide, a Fuelin guide that everyone hopefully has read, the PDF. In that, we outline the hand sizing method for guesstimating when you don't want to necessarily weigh foods and you don't want to track hard. This is the hand model. So you can use the hand model within Fuelin. All you do is tap on the meal cell. In the search section up the top, you can search hand, fist, thumb, and then it will bring up, in this case, cupped hand of carbs. It has details about what that means. You can adjust the serving size and you can add that to it. Further down on the one on the left, you can see that there's fist of vegetables. You could use that as well and then add those in. I use the hand model a lot, mainly because I'm very comfortable with sort of guesstimating my food, and you get better at that as you go. But I tend to use this in conjunction with things like the barcode scanner in MyFitnessPal and then meals within Fuelin. That's how I tend to do it. Really up to you how you want to track your food, but it is a very effective way, especially for those people who want to track but not necessarily be weighing everything. So other ways you can track, you can use meals within it. So again, tap on the meal cell. It will bring up a number of recipes within, things like overnight oats. If you just type in overnight oats, it will bring up a heap of options. You can favorite these. If you tap on it and then tap the love heart, it will become one of your favorite meals. You can tap on it. You can edit the serving size. So if you only want to have half of that, you can have half, or you can have one. You can add it quickly by hitting the plus button on the left-hand side if you know that that's what you eat and you do that. Some athletes will preload their week so they know that they're hitting all their macros. All you then need to do is untick the tick sign next to the food consumed, and it will take away the macros that have been logged. And then when you actually consume it, you can hit that again. And that's just an easy way of sort of mapping out what you're going to be eating throughout the week. And then the final way that you can track meals is you can use MyFitnessPal and lose it. So a nice little hack that probably no one knows about is if you hold down a meal cell, so hold down breakfast, long press, it will then give you a shortcut to open up MyFitnessPal or lose it if it's connected. Does everyone's connect that way? Cool. Yeah, it's nice. You can do that. So as I say, look, I use a combination of all of them. I use meals within Fuelin. I use simple ingredients within Fuelin. I will use the hand sizing method, and then I will use MyFitnessPal just because I don't know, in Australia, we don't get charged for the premium service. So we get the free barcode scanner. I don't know, it's a bit weird. So I do that. The other thing that you can do as well, just as you know, something you can play around with in the search bar, you can type in any product or meal and just give it a few seconds and then scroll down. It will bring up a lot of different versions from a database, which is Fat Secret. It's not perfect because you can't edit the serving size. And we're trying to work on that, but it is something like, you know, an example would be a slice of Kraft cheese. If you put that in a toasty or something, you can select things like that very easily. So you can play around with that as well. The only thing is make sure that Apple Health is connected. If you didn't connect Apple Health to Fuelin at onboarding, you will need to delete Fuelin from your phone, re-download it. And when you re-download it, when it gives you the option to connect to Apple Health, you then need to allow it. Apple Health only gives you one shot at connecting. You can't connect Apple Health once you've downloaded an app if you've already rejected it. I don't know why, but it's just something Apple does. Okay, I talked about this before in terms of updating sessions. So if, for instance, you see this session on the left, it's a run and it's designated as a zone 2, and you're like, you know what, it's not a zone 2. It's actually going to be a really hard session, and I want to use higher amounts of carbs. You tap on the session, you'll see it bring up this little feature down the bottom. You can either tap on Training Peaks to see the session details, or you can tap Edit Session. It will bring up this screen on the right. From here, you can edit the session. So you can edit the time of day, the date, you can edit the duration, and then simply you can edit the session intensity. So as you can see here, lower intensity is viewed as zone 1 or zone 2. Race pace intensity or above is viewed as zone 3 to 5. So from simplicity value, and this is what I was talking about, all we need to know is that delineation between zone 2 and zone 3 for the purpose of nutrition. So sometimes a coach, and I've seen this quite a lot, they'll put a session as zone 2, but then they'll write race pace and race fueling, practice your race fueling. If that is the case and your coach has put in a zone 2 session, obviously talk to your coach, but go in, tap on edit session and update it to race pace intensity or above, and then click save and then rerun your plan. It won't do anything to the session like on Training Peaks. It will just put in this little closed bracket 3 in the session title. But what it will do is provide you with the right nutrition from our perspective. And that's really important. I don't know why some coaches say zone 2 and then race pace or race fueling, because I think it's very unlikely that you're going to be racing at zone 2 unless, I don't know, you're out there just having a bit of a jolly. So does anyone race at zone 2? I don't think anyone does. No. I'd hope not. When you do that, when you click edit your session, you click save, you can then rerun the plan, or if you know that there's other sessions you need to update, you can then hit edit more and then go through and do that. This is only available for Training Peaks in today's plan. It doesn't work for Final Surge because they won't provide the API to allow that. As I say, though, it will update Training Peaks. So if you change the time of day or duration and things like that, it will actually update Training Peaks, so you don't have to double handle, which is kind of cool. If you are doing racing, which I assume most of you are, you can do this. You need to create this in your platform. So you go to create event. You then need to use, see where it says event goals. You need to tap on that. You need to add in the distance and also add in the duration. In terms of the event name, be specific with it. So if you're doing, I don't know, Santa Cruz 70.3, put that in the title so we know what it is, because then we will pick up for that week and we'll make sure that your race week nutrition is on point and also your race fueling is on point as well. If you've got any questions about that, you can obviously send a message in chat. Okay, so that's most of the features. Down the bottom in the nav bar, chat, you've got the chat feature. This is for Copilot and one-to-one coaching if you're on those tiers. If you want to book a call, you just tap the button up the top. For one-to-one, they get unlimited coaching calls. Copilot and below do need to pay for consultations. If you've got issues with anything, if you notice there's a bug or you're really struggling, you can message us, okay? So that's fine. The screen on the right is actually mine. So all those little red badges are messages from athletes. It is a real person responding to you. It's not a bot. So just for you to know. So, you know, respect what tier you're in as well, I guess, is the important thing. But we will help you. We're not assholes, so don't worry. Fuel Central down the bottom, tap the fuel section. This obviously brings up recipes, ingredients and that. But then if you tap on the fuel, hydration or supplement section, it will then bring up this screen on the right. This is connected to a company called The Feed. So if you're in America, it's very good. You can get it delivered to Australia, but I think sometimes what am I looking for? The shipping costs can sometimes be a little bit exorbitant. If you don't have an account with The Feed, when you click buy, it will trigger you to set up an account. you will have $25 a month free credit, and you will get a free water bottle, which is personalized, which is pretty cool. These are the supplements and products that we recommend from a fueling and hydration perspective. We're open to adding more products in as they become available, or if we know that athletes really love them. In terms of supplements, you click on that. That's more to do with macronutrients. There is the product by Pillar, which is magnesium, which is also in the feed. And then in terms of macronutrients, so protein, in particular whey protein or plant protein supplements, we do recommend True Protein because honestly, it's just the best protein company in the world in terms of flavor and quality of their ingredients. If you are looking for a new protein company, then I would certainly click on that and use it. It makes a huge difference in terms of just enjoyment. What's the question? Check out the Strava challenge for more discounts at the feed as well. Yeah, cool. So yeah, do all that. Like use the feed. I think it's pretty cool. They do a pretty good job, and it's pretty seamless. I think the reason we did integrate with them based on athlete feedback was it just meant we didn't have to have heaps of URLs and things like that going in where you were bouncing between heaps of different websites. So in terms of the True Protein baskets I set up as well, I think I set up like just an omnivore basket and then a vegan vegetarian. I've got recommended products in there. You can edit that basket before checkout. So just go down to the bottom, hit edit basket, remove anything you don't need. I think honestly, you need 1 bag or 2 bags of protein and a bag of creatine to get free shipping. So generally people will need that anyway, but highly recommend. Not a sell from us. I'm just saying that athletes love it. Okay. In terms of probably what we've outlined there today, I think step 1, make sure your training plan is connected to Fuelin, plus or minus having Apple Health connected. Obviously, we recommend having Apple Health connected because it will allow things like using MyFitnessPal, Lose It, and future integrations to come in. Make sure that duration, session intensity, and time of day in your session plan is updated before hitting update your plan and creating next week. In terms of step 2, I think probably in week 1, just track your intake, whether you use the hand sizing model, whether you use MyFitnessPal, whether you use Fuelin or a bastardized approach of all 3, and just compare to what we're recommending. A lot of athletes will be like quite shocked at like either they're over consuming fat, they're under consuming protein, or they're way off on carbs. And so what we'd say is just have a look at where the differences are. And then maybe in week 3, start to think about, or not even week 3, then once you've looked at those comparisons, when you then start to track hard, focus on one of those macronutrients where you're making a big sort of impact. So if you're really low on protein, focus on hitting your protein target and then just looking at the carb colors and getting that right. Maybe it's fat. If it's reducing fat intake, focus on that as you're tracking, and then really work at getting that in balance. In terms of another step that you should be thinking about, you will get daily wellness pushed towards you on a daily basis. I think it's really important for you as an athlete to sort of just take a step back and think about like, how is your energy? How's your sleep? How's your soreness? And how's that tracking? Are things tracking either consistently in the same place or getting better? Or if they're going in the wrong direction, then certainly reach out to us. If you are going to be weight tracking, as I said, Monday and Friday mornings, if it's triggering for you based on previous experience with eating issues, then certainly reach out to us. As I said, step 4, that's where you're aiming to hit, whatever macronutrient you're doing. And then step 5, you can certainly do the sweat and carb data stuff earlier, but if your primary focus is more on your health and your performance in your training, then focus on your daily intake. You can work on things like the sweat testing and the carb testing as it comes. If you've obviously got a race coming up very soon, then getting on top of your sweat rate and your carb data is very important, and you can crack on with that. We'll go through some questions. Remember to join the Coached Facebook group. You will have received an email about that. And then where possible, join the live weekly Q&A sessions. Next week's Q&A session is actually going to be on Instagram. We're just going to trial that and see how that goes. I will send out an email about that either today or tomorrow. Cool. Any questions? I know there's a lot to take in. So sorry if I was speaking very quickly as well.
I have one quick question.
Yeah.
It was a lot to take in, and I'm just kind of getting reacquainted to just tracking in general. I did it years ago and I'm back on track with it now. Will we be receiving a copy of this recording so we can kind of go back and take a look at it again, or should we just
yeah, I actually did record this one, so I can send you this video. It's fine.
Okay.
We are actually working on putting small snippets like Loom recordings into the onboarding process as well. So, but I can send this one through to you. That's not a problem.
Thank you.
Look, it's funny because obviously like one of our pillars is keeping things simple, personalized, and results. The hardest thing about the program is honestly the onboarding and just getting used to everything, because there's a lot going on. Like, we appreciate that. And it's like, it is the complexities of a nutrition program and trying to do it, as simple as possible, but it's often just, getting set up. That's the hard thing. Once you're set up and how the program works, it becomes incredibly simple. And, you'll just see, like, for instance, you'll see a red meal and you'll be like, okay, I know that's vegetables and salad. Like, that's my carb sources. Oh, I see a yellow meal. Okay, it's salad and it's some fruit maybe, and then it's probably, a little bit of rice or a slice of toast or something with that. Oh, it's a green meal. Okay, it's not before races and it's not you're not trying to reduce fiber. Okay, it is the salad and the fruit, and it's probably, slice of toast and then maybe some grains or some pasta and rice with that as well. So it's like that layering effect when you see those colors. And you'll just start to recognize what those colors mean to you, as I say. So it's and look at our Instagram. We explain like meal builders and things like that, like in simple ways, how, a yellow meal, a base product, like, you might have your base, like, which might be, as I said, it might be something as simple as your protein base. So it might be chicken. And then, as I said, a red meal might be chicken with salad and vegetables. Your yellow meal might be the salad and vegetables with the rice, and then your green meal might be the chicken with pasta. So it's all the same concepts. It's just you're layering in the amount of carbohydrates to hit those total amounts of carbs required. You don't all have to be Michelin-starred chefs. I think Instagram has messed a lot of people up in that sense. Like, you think every meal has to look perfect and all that. Like, we want you to enjoy food again. And it is one of the best things that we get from athletes, where they're like, wow, I've started cooking again. I've started enjoying eating again. And I don't feel guilty about eating. So we definitely want you to enjoy cooking and eating, but just also remember, not every meal has to look Instagram worthy when you're doing it. We try our best, but they're often terrible as well. So, what else? Any other questions? No, pretty good. It's cool. Has anyone got races coming up? No races?
Not for a long time. Not till the end of the year.
Yeah, that's cool. Oh, end of the year. That's not that long. When?
True, it isn't that long. Barso, full.
You're doing the full?
Yeah.
Oh, how good.
That's why
I was
trying to dial
meant
in.
to do the 70.3, but I pulled out. I just
I just did
kids.
Western Sydney, completely stuffed up my whole nutrition thing. So it's time. It's time to figure it out.
Yeah, look, unfortunately, it is one of the most common things we get from athletes. They're like, I stuffed up, now I need to like sort it out. And it's like, it often takes a failure to sort of go, you know what, I probably need to, just dial it in a little bit. And honestly, you'll make a big difference, Dylan. Like, I can't tell you how many times we get from athletes that they're just like, wow, let's just completely change. Not just the racing aspect, because what you'll learn through the program is that your training is just a reflection of your racing. And so you need to be practicing your race fueling in those sessions when it's appropriate. And that's a huge, again, like this light bulb moment for a lot of athletes, where they're like, I get it. So it's a hard, long training session, and I'm practicing my race fueling and my hydration in that session. And so when you get to the race, you're like, well, I know exactly what I'm doing. Like, I'm eating this bar, I'm drinking this carb, I'm doing these chews or I'm eating these gels on the bike at these intervals because that's what I've practiced. I know that's my grams of carbs per hour that I can hit without getting GI distress when I run off the bike, and know how to manage that. And it sounds difficult, but actually in practice it's super simple. It's just rinse, repeat. It's the same as riding a bike. Like, you didn't just ride a bike once and then go, oh, I'm going to do an Ironman. Like, you practice and practice and practice. And I think once you get out of that, I think, and I'm not speaking directly to you, but I'm saying to everyone, like, once athletes get out of the headspace of like, oh, nutrition, training, it's like, no, they're together. Like, every day is like, you just got to do, whether you do your nutrition perfectly every day, okay, that's another thing, but it's the same with training. Training's never perfect. You're just doing it over and over again until it becomes second nature, and it gets easy. So very good. I think someone put something in the chat. I think someone had to leave, did they? Oh, pleasure, Sylvia. Yeah, look, I know, as I said, like, a lot of it is tough, and you get overwhelmed with a lot of information, emails and messages and everything and all that. But just take your time, read through those initial emails we send you as well, read through the guide again. If you got questions, do that. As I said, like Dylan, in your case, like, I'd strongly recommend a consult, mate. Like,
Yeah.
it makes the biggest difference to like how
Yeah, I was actually going to ask that because I believe I am in a consult. You do my dad as well. I'm not sure who.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just on
Mark Clough.
yeah. Sorry. Can I just give context? Dylan's dad just won Worlds, by the way, in his age
And it
group.
was purely to you, I believe, Scotty. He says it's down to you. So he definitely why I'm here. Definitely.
And so they're both racing Busso at the end of the year, and there's a full competition between them. So I'm not allowed to be Dylan's coach. So
It'll be good fun.
Yeah, no, you'll do great. You're with Alan, so you'll smash it. Alan will help you heaps. So yeah, we might have a side bet on that.
Yeah, perfect. Do
Alan
I
and
just
I.
text the
Press the button.
yeah,
Press the button up the
book a
top.
consult and it's done. Yeah.
Yeah, you have the ability to have a consult every week, mate. That's what your level is, and I would do that 100%. Like, most of my one-to-ones when they first start, we do a weekly consult, and then gradually, based on how you're going, you can just spread that out. But
yeah, perfect. Sounds good.
No, very good. Angela, did you have any questions?
No, thanks. I'm just taking it all in. It's all interesting and motivating. Thank you.
Cool.
Yeah, all good.
Perfect. You're friends with
Laura.
Laura Higgins.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, very good.
Yeah. She raves about you.
That's cool. Angela's friend, Dylan's gone, but her friend just did Western Sydney and stuff.
Yeah, so Dylan probably ran past me while I was cheering. Didn't even know.
Yeah. So so it's really cool. So yeah, it's great getting feedback like that as well. So.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Heather, any questions? I know you're with your kids. I feel your pain. Maybe she can't hear. Did you have any more questions, Elizabeth?
No, I'm good. Thanks. I think, as I said, I'm just kind of in the process of getting my head around it all. So I'll reach out if I have anything else, but this was helpful. So I'm sorry.
Where are you based?
I'm out of New York in the States.
Oh,
so
yeah,
I'm racing Ironman Lake Placid is my next big event. So not until next July.
It's a tough one though. So like it's a tough race. So yeah, we get a lot of athletes on that one. But, yeah, I think a lot of people think, oh, it's not till July, it's ages away. It's like, I was just chatting to Matt Dixon, coach of Purple Patch, and it's like, when athletes start to recognize, like, yeah, it's 7, 8, 9 months away, but if you get, like, in this Q4, you get set up, then you hit the new year, and then when you actually start training for the race, it's just so much easier. And it's a big commitment. Like, doing an Ironman is a huge commitment. And I hate when I hear athletes just stuffed it, like, and it was purely because of nutrition, like no other reason. And like, nutrition can help a lot, but it can completely derail. Yeah.
This will be my 4th. And so I think I think nutrition is clearly that one area that I have not been diligent about and have not paid enough attention to. So I'm excited to see where this takes me.
Yeah. Yeah. It's certainly exciting when athletes see the difference, you know, and I know like people will talk about body composition and stuff, but like it's a small element of it. Like, you know, improvements in body composition, yes, it can make a difference to athletes. And I know there's a lot of difficulty about talking about improving body composition in social media and stuff because it's sort of frowned upon. But I think, you know, if people do have significant issues with body comp, then it should be something that we can talk about and improve, because it's not just from a performance aspect, it's also from a health perspective. And we know that from, you know, multiple studies, there are health implications of, you know, increased body fat and stuff like that. And I'm not saying that's for you either, by the way.
Right.
I'm just saying, like, you know, I think athletes do focus on this race weight, this magical race weight, and it's, especially when it's like within like a few pounds, that's where I think people lose sight. Like, honestly, like 2 or 3 pounds, give a shit. Like, it's not going to break anything. If you're within 2 or 3 pounds, then focus on eating really well and training the house down. You'll probably end up getting down to that weight anyway, just because you train harder, because you've got more energy with better fueling. I think that's where, you know, you can certainly get lost in that sort of need to be at a number that you think is, you know, magic, and it just isn't. So, and you can talk, you can, you know, you speak to a million athletes about that, especially a lot of pros who suddenly get that notion. They're like, oh, wow, I just don't need to be, you know, 125 or 131 or whatever it is. And it's like, just get on with it. So. Cool. Okay. Matt, any questions from you? All good. Perfect. Well, I'll end it there. I will, what's best way? I'll probably send an email of this recording so you can review it. Okay. Cool.
Great.
Well,
Thank
lovely
you.
to meet you all.
Thanks.
Speak to you soon.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.